Well, the state of the real estate market is a topic of discussion that people enjoy talking about. And what is the state of the real estate market? What are some of the trends, some of the things that we see happening? Today, we have an exciting guest who's an expert in the business to talk about all of that and more on today's edition of the Brian Hurst Show. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time of day it is when you're watching or listening. We are so delighted that you have elected to join us on today's edition of the Brian Hurst Show. And the state of the real estate market is a topic of discussion that people love to talk about. It's probably something that I could do a show on, 5, 6, 7 times a year, and people would be interested to talk about it. Even lay people who don't have any expertise at all in real estate love to talk about what is the state of the real estate market. Now, there are seasons when the real estate market is hot, seasons when the real estate market is cool, and then seasons when the real estate market is at equilibrium. And no matter where we are in the cycle of real estate, it seems as though there's people that are always looking for a way to gain an edge, always looking for a way to circumvent the market, always looking for a way to put extra money in their pocket in the real estate market. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about commercial real estate. We're going to talk about the economy. We're going to talk about what it's like to run a real estate brokerage in this crazy business. And today we have a very special guest who also happens to be my boss. He is the broker manager at the real estate brokerage that I hang my license at. He is as polished and experienced and accomplished a real estate professional as you're ever going to find. And I would like every one of you to welcome to today's edition of the Brian Hurst Show, Mr. Bruce. Is it Kallen or Kallen?
Kallen.
Kallen. Some people say Kallen, though.
Yeah, I answer to a lot of things.
It's like Gina Sheen or Gina Shane.
Exactly.
You're Bruce Kallen, not Kallen.
Correct.
And Mr. Bruce Kallen, we are so delighted to have you on the show today. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Good awesome. Afternoon. Let's talk a little bit about you. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
So my story is pretty simple. I've lived in the high desert all my life. My mom came here as a single mom when I was a year old, got a job, raised me until I was 8 as a single mom, got remarried. I had a stepdad, and I grew up here. I went to school at St. Mary's School when I was in elementary school. Then I went to Apple Valley Middle, and then to Apple Valley High School. I graduated Apple Valley High School. I was a senior class president when I was in high school, and did a lot of stuff. But in those days, when you were the president of your class, it wasn't because you were smart. It was because you were popular. And all we did was mess around. It was a good way to get out of class. So I'm not going to take credit for being an intellectual when I was in high school, but I was a solid B student. So out of high school, I got married young. I got married at 19 to my wife, who I'm still married to. And we had 2 boys, and have raised our family here in Apple Valley and in the high desert. And when I was 19, I bought my first house, and we just did a lot of stuff involving real estate. And I had a small business that I ran, food distribution business I ran. I was in my 30th year when I sold it. And then I went into real estate full time, but I had gotten my license. I'd say I was probably 2005. I was probably 45 at the time. So yeah, that's
you were 45 when you got your license?
Yeah, I got my license late in my life, but I had been doing real estate transactions a lot from when I was before I was even 20. So all my friends are in either the real estate business, or they're in construction, or a good buddy of mine's a surveyor, engineer. So we've done our share of, land subdivisions and buying and selling houses, rental properties, you name it. A lot of land, things like that over the years.
There's a lot of people, and that's an impressive resume, by the way. Did you go to college anywhere?
Yeah, I went to VVC a little bit. I didn't get a degree, but I was taking courses at the time that I thought would benefit me. Nothing formal, but
Gotcha.
did go to VVC for a while.
So, a lot of people talk to me about, you know, using real estate as a side hustle, and I really, I don't, I don't see how somebody could do it unless they were satisfied with only closing 1 or 2 deals a year. Maybe they could do it as a side hustle and they're just happy to, somebody refers them the business and they don't have to be available. But you were somehow, what was the gap between 2005 when you got your license and when you sold the business?
So my business that I was in a business that it was mine. Both my wife and myself have owned a couple different businesses over the years, and I was too small to be big and too big to be small. I was operating with the big companies, but yet I was a small player, so I had to really work hard. So my business was very labor intensive, a lot of work in and out of a truck, in and out of the warehouse, loading stuff, unloading stuff, trucks, forklifts, warehouse, the whole deal. So, I knew that my shelf life as a human being, my physical condition was going to become a problem.
Hmm.
There was other guys in my business that were older than me that were starting to really start hurting physically. So I kind of decided that before I was too young to retire, but yet I was too old to just do too many things. And I've always had an interest in real estate. So that's what led me there. It was easy for me to transition into real estate because I knew a lot about it and had done so many transactions that I didn't, it was not a big learning curve for me to enter into real estate.
How long were you doing both?
Uh, so from 2005 until about 10 years ago. So what is that? It's 2023.
2013.
Yeah. So from 5 to 13, I was a part-time agent. And my job was a full-time job. I was working probably at least 60 hours a week, and it was my business. So there was no taking time off or doing anything. I just had to work real estate into it. I remember it's funny because I would work in this big white step van, and I was always kind of grubby. The clothes you wear when you're doing a job like that are different than what I wear now. I was in tennis shoes, t-shirts, shorts, that kind of thing. If ever I got a client, I would park my van a ways away from the property, and I would always have a set of clothes to change into. I would change into some nicer clothes, and then I would walk down the street, try to get there before them, and basically be there when they got there. That's people that didn't know me, and then it was kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde thing, and then say goodbye to them when we were done, watch them leave, and then go back to the truck and
Oh,
change. So
boy.
there was a
That
lot of those kind of showings.
that's incredible. How many, what was the volume that you were doing it? It was what, an 8 year gap that you were both running a full-time food distribution business and selling real estate. So what kind of volume were you able to do working
Um,
60 hours a week, on your business and meeting clients, changing clothes? You had some cologne in the van, I take it.
yeah. Well, I've always been a hustler. So, for me, if I'm going to do something, I don't want to wade in and not do it. I go full tilt. So I don't think I've ever had a year lower than 7 million in volume. And I've had a lot of years that are 20 and over, especially since I went full time. But I just would do anything and everything that came across my plate and never said no to anybody. So it really wasn't like I had an obligation. I just handled both. And it's funny because even when I was running my route, I always found time to coach my kids in sports and stay involved in what they were doing, and it's just kind of making time to do what you need to do, and
Right.
work as long as you got to. I mean, so many times I
Right.
would be working until midnight, taking care of paperwork or offers or whatever, and I don't sleep much as it is. So I think that's been the case as long as I can remember.
People ask me, because I'm the president of the men's golf club down there, and I sit on the advisory board for the club, and I'm the vice president of the HOA here, and I pastor a local church, and I sell real estate. I do all of these things, and people ask me, how in the world do you do that? Well, first of all, I don't have kids at home anymore. Right? If I had kids at home anymore, I'd have to take off one or two of those hats. But getting good at managing time, being efficient, knowing how to time block and knowing, this is if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to take care of this later. It sounds to me like you were really good at that if you were handling all of that. And I know you well enough that not only were you doing all of those things, you were doing them with excellence. You're delivering time and time again. And that's how over time you gain leverage in the market, and people look to you and they say, wow, this is a professional and somebody that I can refer clients to.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been really the kind of person that is keyed in on customer service.
Mm,
So even my other business, I had people working for me, different things, and nobody ever did it quite the same way I would do it. And a lot of people would think I was crazy for saying, you need to take this next step. You need to really do it this way. And they'd be like, well, it's the same thing if I do it this way. No, not necessarily. I would always be striving to get the best result I could get with my clients, my customers, and then that carried over into the real estate for me.
all right.
I just I'm an old-fashioned person that way. I believe in good customer service, honesty, integrity with your clients. Make sure everybody's taken care of. I always answer my phone. With the agents that I manage now or the clients that I have, nobody has to wait for me. I'm always there for them.
Well, so for so long as I've known you, you've been a pro and excellent at what you do. How did commercial real estate become part of your business?
So for me, having done so many things with real estate before I even was licensed, I always gravitated towards the commercial side of things. First and foremost, I'm a business person. I kind of know how that works, and so many of my clients are business people. Even on the residential side of things, I deal with probably 75% of my clients are business owners
Mm,
or they're investors, or so I don't really deal with a lot of people that are just, buying a house, first time home buyer, that kind of thing. Most of the people that I deal with are further along, with what they invest in and how they go about it. And that's been like that since day one. So there's no real magic pill. Most of the commercial guys, it's not like you can just go to a bunch of classes and then become a commercial guy. You have to be able to understand that side of the business. You have to know the language, the lingo, the things that they're looking for. You have to understand investments. What is a good investment? So many people get into commercial and they just go on LoopNet and they see a listing and they start throwing it out to clients like that's something they'd be interested in. You have to understand what people are looking for and the market itself, what they want. And then once you're in a transaction, there's a lot more to it than a residential. The paperwork is actually easier, but the due diligence and the things you have to look for are
sure.
way much more harder and a lot more liability if you do something wrong. So I mean, I've been doing commercial deals almost since day one, and it's just mushroomed. I've done a lot of really big transactions, whether it be with shopping centers, apartments, gas stations, large land transactions for subdivision. Um, so every one of them is different. That's kind of what I like about commercial versus residential. For me, it's always a challenge. Where residential sometimes it's pretty much the same. But I like that too. I don't, again, like I told you earlier, I don't turn anything down. I,
All right.
I I'm a hustler that way.
Yeah. So when we talk about the state of the real estate market, where things are as compared to where you've seen them before. When you came into real estate, it was at the zenith of that cycle. Things ramped up. Like we had a little foreclosure issue in the 90s, and then things started ramping up again right after 9/11, right? So in 2002, 3, 4, that time frame. Hit its peak in 05, 06, and then the I have a weekly market update where we talk about active listings, and that's one of the indicators of where we are and where we think things are headed. In 2007, the summer of 2007, you may or may not remember this, that I got this information from Carol, who is our both of our boss formerly, owner and broker of Sheer Realty. We had over 4,000 active listings on the market. I mean, you see that in an absorption rate of even even 300 or 400 a month. If you have 4,000 listings, there's only one place the market can go, and that's down. Right? So at
Right.
some point, everything's got to go on sale. So, is there? You've seen a lot. You've seen a lot happen in the residential side. You've seen a lot happen on the commercial side. Is there a correlation between the commercial real estate market and the residential real estate market?
To a point. I mean, commercial, there's a lot less emotion in commercial
Sure.
deals.
Yeah.
Pretty much it's just investments and what it is people are looking for, whether they're buying or selling. And most of the time when they sell, they're looking to exchange into something else. It's pretty much just a numbers game, but it does affect things, especially with the overall economy. When the cycle is down and nothing's happening, a lot of those investors are looking for deals. When the cycle is hot and a lot of sales happening, then those investors are looking for a decent income. Now you can make 5% on your money in the bank, so a lot of the investors are leaning towards high yield savings accounts, that kind of thing, that don't tie their money up as much as a commercial piece of property, building, or rental property, whatever. So it just depends on the overall market as to the kind of the flavor and the mindset of an investor. But they're there whether the market's hot or whether the market's cold when it comes to residential. And one of the reasons why I encourage a lot of our agents to, at least dip their toes into the commercial market, because that's a market that is consistent. And a lot of the residential clients are commercial investors or buyers.
Of
If
course.
you're dealing with somebody that has the means to buy a house, and if you talk to them a little bit, sometimes you find out they own some apartments, or maybe their family has some investments down the hill. One thing to me will lead to the other, and so many agents leave that as a void. They're just concerned about houses, and a lot of the agents that are doing residential don't even do land, which to me, we've got people in our office now doing land, and they're farming for big land deals. I've got in our office, we've got agents doing $1 million land deals, and a lot of the agents are like, "Oh, I don't want to do land; it's too hard, or I don't understand it." And that's not really the case. I mean, for a good agent, you should be able to do a lot of different things. And luckily for myself and for you and a few of the other people, we had good training,
Mm.
and we aren't afraid, to do things, because we understand if you're diligent in your job and you pay attention to the details, not too many things are going to get past you if you're a good agent. And it's the ones that just are, that have that close mentality, and are just out there doing stuff, and they don't really think about the ramifications. Those are the agents that wind up in with problems, and it probably they don't have confidence either, because they can barely do a residential transaction. We're very fortunate. I have a lot of good people that work for First Team.
Talk to us a little bit about how all of that came to be, where you go from being a perennial top producing agent. So it seemed there for about, I would say, from 2000, let's say 15 through 2020. So six seasons of real estate. Every year it was, Bruce, Gina, Brian, Lisa, Helen Bartowski, like in some order. The five of us were on the top of the newspaper article or the ad. Mine was I was never first, but you were pretty consistently first, and you're just killing it. I was looked at him going, wow, that guy is I look at the number of transactions. You do half the transactions and twice the volume. Like that's the dream, but that's the secret that you were talking about in getting in land deals and in commercial real estate. And all of a sudden, you find yourself in a situation where you are now. When did you get your broker's license? You got your sales license in '05.
I think I've had it now for about 8 years.
Okay, well,
Um,
you and I actually got our broker's license around the same time. I think I got mine. It was right around that time, 15, 16, 17. Maybe, you know what? It was 2017. So that would have been 6 years ago.
yeah, I've
You
had
got
mine a
your,
little longer. Yeah, I think I've had it. I think I got it probably in 15, I want to say. But um, yeah, I mean,
and that
um,
exam stunk. That didn't like the salesperson exam was a piece of cake. The broker's license was not a piece of cake, which I suppose it should be that way. But you
mine
find
was the opposite experience. When I did
really,
my sales license, it was at a time when we took it with a like a little binder book, and
uh,
you know, everybody had a different book in the room. And yeah, when I walked out of there, it was one of those things where you wait like 2 weeks before
oh
you get the result.
no,
But when I
great,
walked out of there, I thought I failed because it just didn't, nothing was feeling good. And then when I took the broker's test, I knew I passed. Like I knew, and that test was in the newer phase where you have the computer in front of you
yeah,
and you click a button and it gives you results. So it was the opposite experience, but I luckily for me, I passed both of them first time.
yeah. Luckily for me. So you got your broker's license, which makes you eligible to have your own business and do your own thing. But all of a sudden, you find yourself from being the perennial top producing agent on the top row of the newspaper ad to now you're the man running the freaking show, and you're managing agents. Uh, talk to us about that transition, how that came to be, the difference experience for you.
Well, it wasn't anything I was really looking to do. And you're right, I was content with my role that I was in, and I would have stayed in that role that I was in, but circumstances made it such that I couldn't keep doing it. And basically, I thought, okay, I had talked to First Team at the Real Estate Expo, and I have a condo down in Dana Point. So in that area, in the beach, in
Right,
the coast area, First Team's huge, and
right,
First Team has been in business since 1976. So a lot of the people up here didn't really know it. At the time, I thought, well, I'll call them. And I had talked to somebody at the expo, and they were interested in opening up an office in the desert. And so one thing led to another, and we decided to go for it. So we stayed in the location we were at with our former commercial office, which was when we were sheer.
right. And you
And
had three or four agents there too, right?
yeah, we had 4 people,
Okay.
and then we just grew. And our growth has been pretty organic. I'm not a I always joke with some of the agents, I'm the worst recruiter that there is, because I'm just not good at picking up the phone and calling people, even though there's a lot of agents in the area that know me and have a mutual respect, and I've done deals with them. And but I just have a hard time picking up the phone and going, hey, are you not happy where you're at? Would you like a change? That kind of thing. It's not my style, and never has been. And I'm the kind of person that people that know me know what, I'm just a worker, and I lead by example. I don't, I'm not going to run around and talk about how great we are and what I do and how I've done all this stuff or any of that. I don't have that need. What I do enjoy is the culture we've created. And when we started with nothing basically, and have built to, we're in the top 5 of the brokerages in the high desert as far as sales volume. And I don't need to be number one. I mean, I didn't start with that intention. I just wanted to build an office that we could all come to and enjoy, and enjoy each other's company and
Mm.
support each other. and have a little bit of fun. I know we're kind of known for that, and it's been great. I don't regret it. It was a little awkward at the time because I thought, where I should be retiring. Why am I starting an office? And some people thought I was crazy. But again, getting back to that, when I worked part time, if you're going to do it, do it. That's kind of my attitude. If you're going to do it, don't just dabble. I've never been somebody to take on a project or a role and just do it half-ass. That's not me.
Right.
So, I've been at it. I'm in the office every day. I don't take a lot of time off. I'm here. My door's open. The agents come in, answer questions, help them with deals. My enjoyment now comes from seeing other people succeed. I've
Right.
done a lot, and I'm happy with my progress. So rather than just focus on my stuff, now I get to focus on everybody else, and it's kind of nice.
Well, so much of what you're describing, my mother's story, she got her license, gosh, it's been, it was like 1990, I think. And when in those days, this is, a little bit of a picture in how the market has changed, like the whole industry. It's a little different, not dramatically, but a little different than how it was back then. When she got her license, working for Sheer Realty was not an option. In those days, it was you got to go, earn your stripes a little bit at, more of an entry level brokerage, or what was looked upon as being an entry level brokerage. And in those days, it was Century 21 Gold, I think was the name of the office. And that's where she went, and she got a lot of sales training, and she learned how to, you know, contracts and listings and so on and so forth. Um, and then at probably 2 to 3 years in, it was my mother and Bob Eaton together came from that office to Sheer Realty, and it was I endeavor to be a part of a more prestigious brand that is known for the luxury market, that's known for experienced agents and so on and so forth. And that was the culture started, by Bob Shear all those years ago, that this is how we do business here. We're not throwing stuff against the wall to see if it'll stick. We're serious people. We take our business serious. Agent retention is probably a more important indicator in the health of the brokerage than it is the number of new agents that come in. And then subsequently, not long after you got your license, did you start with Shear?
No, I didn't.
So it was a Carol bought Sheer Realty from Bob Shear. It was right at that time, right?
Yeah,
2005.
so I came on. It was kind of, I guess, fate. I don't know. I was working for another broker, and I learned a lot there, but it was more a matter of convenience for me. It was a broker that I had gone to high school with, and I thought, well, this is easy. I go over here and just kind of do whatever. I didn't really have a lot of expectations, but I just needed a place to be. So when I went there, I worked for Artisan with Dino DeFazio and with Chris Gordon, who now works with her sister Carrie over at Caldwell. So, I worked and learned and basically did all I could do there. So I was there for about a year, and then decided, like you said, to go somewhere where I felt like there was some prestige, a better brand, somebody that I felt really good about giving a card from. And, I had no idea that Carol would hire me because, I was this grubby guy with another business, and I had heard all these stories about they didn't want any part-time people, and here I was, a part-time person. And she
Wow.
welcomed me with open arms. She knew me and had kind of, I guess, maybe seen how I was doing in my early part of my career, hired me. And then, I just worked hard in the Apple Valley office. Then the opportunity arose to start the commercial office. So we did the commercial office on Hesperia Road, and I ran that for 5 years, and then ended up doing first team. So yeah.
Well, I mean, if you think about that, what the story, the narrative that you just shared with us, you and I are not sitting here having this conversation if she doesn't make that perspicacious decision back in 2006 or 7, whenever that was. And,
Yeah,
look how this has evolved over the years. But you and I are both the beneficiaries of a culture and a way of doing business that, I mean, I've not known anything other than Sheer Realty and now subsequently First Team. That's where I was trained. There's a way of doing business. My mother's the one that trained me mostly, but this came, there was a culture in the business of how we treat clients, how we treat people, the way we go about business, being professional in how we handle things, that when you look at some of the practices elsewhere, I'm going, I can't relate to what people do. And we're starting to see some weird stuff going on in the market, right? The brokers doing some strange stuff, agents doing some different things.
yeah, everything has changed. I mean, the culture that we were both brought up in, and a lot of our agents have been brought up in, was a little different with the fact that our focus is always on our client. So if we're representing a buyer, we represent the buyer to the best of our ability. Same thing with the seller, to the best of our ability. There's a certain amount of ethics involved, and some things are allowed, but we would never do them because it wasn't the kind of thing that we felt was right for our clients. There's things happening now, and a lot of people, there's so many different options for a buyer or seller these days. They can do things online. We've heard about all these different companies that pop up that offer a discount service. They decide they don't want to pay as much. They think agents might make too much. And there's even people that think agents are crooks and out there doing things. I read something on Facebook the other day about, it's either a real estate agent or an attorney. It's getting kind of some bad press sometimes. And one of the things that I'm most proud of, I think, in our culture, in our office, and First Team, one of the things I liked about First Team, they have the same core values as the company I came from, which it's important to me because customer service, again, the most important thing. We've got a lot of offices now where they feel like it's okay if you're a buyer's agent. Now, for those of the people that are tuning into the show that don't know how it works, generally speaking, the seller pays a commission on a residential listing.
Right.
So the agreement between the listing agent and the seller is, the certain fees that they have to pay, including commission. And agents have an option to either hire a transaction coordinator or do the work themselves, the paperwork themselves. I'm a big stickler on doing your own paperwork and at least understanding that,
Sure.
because that's part of an agent's job.
Yes,
A
it
lot
is.
of the new agents, they don't get a lot of training to be an agent. So they just pass their paperwork on to a transaction coordinator who really is not responsible. They're not the agent. They don't have a DRE license,
It's not
but
her
they're going
name.
to handle all the paperwork and a
It's not
lot of
her
the
name on the
discussion.
bottom of the contract. When I first started working for Shearer, we were the rarity. We
Yeah.
had a transaction coordinator, Shauna Wood, and you remember Shauna.
Yeah.
Shauna was smart as a whip and knew contracts and escrows and lenders, all that stuff inside and out. And she was amazing. And a lot of who I am today is because of her. Honestly, I mean, she was incredible. But there was never a time when there was an option on who was paying her. We paid her,
Yeah.
right? That's number one. Number two, it wasn't her name on the bottom of the contract.
Right.
My name on that contract.
Right.
I'm
Well,
responsible.
yeah, the agent is responsible. Well, and we've seen a lot of offers come through lately, and it started out with what they call a TC fee. So on a purchase contract, the buyer's agent writes the offer. They can put things on the offer, and supposedly they're clearing it with their own client. And I don't know if that's the case sometimes, because a lot of times we'll see offers come through with exorbitant TC fees that they're charging their own client. Well, we saw one the other day with a TC fee and an admin fee that totaled over $800. And we've seen them as high as 2,000. And I've got a couple examples from agents that are higher than that. So
Wow.
literally, that buyer's agent is creating a fee or a charge or cost to their own client that doesn't necessarily have to be there.
Right.
To choose to use a TC is the agent's choice.
Sure.
So if they choose to do that, then they should be responsible to pay for it. They pass that on to their client. Same thing with admin fees and things that they pay their own office. Those are things that in their office they have to pay. So when they pass that on to their client, in effect, they're not doing their client a service. They're
No.
charging them money that wouldn't otherwise be charged.
Who's
Our
training
agents don't.
who's
Yeah, we
training
don't
these
do that.
agents to do that, Bruce? Who's teaching them, "Hey, this is what you should." I mean, are they having office meetings at these brokerages saying,
I
"When you write a
don't.
contract, stick 600 on." Again, I have a transaction coordinator, but I pay her. She's
Right,
my assistant.
right.
Yeah, right? So
I
this is
have the same thing. Yeah,
okay. So I pay her directly. This is I have a business and I've hired this person, and so I pay her out of the business that's produced for me to have a buyer. And when you're a buyer, by the way, just is probably a good time for anybody who's listening that is a buyer. What you're looking for is, what is my interest rate going to be? What is my monthly payment going to be? Right? I need that. And what is my cash to close figures going to be? I need to know how much cash I'm going to need to bring to the table to close this deal. And rule of thumb, if it's a standard garden variety FHA deal, you're talking about somewhere around 6.5% of the purchase price, give or take. So if it's a $400,000 deal, you're gonna, be somewhere around the $25,000 to $26,000 in cash to close. What you're saying is this agent's gonna add another couple grand on top of it.
yeah.
You got
We
to
see
bring to
it.
the table to close. I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah, we see it, and that's really just the tip of the iceberg because there's companies that you know, and this is just something that's happened in the last 10 years or so, where there's broker-owned escrow companies. And I'm not against a broker-owned escrow company. A lot of them have their own companies. What I am against is making your client feel like they have to use your escrow company. And then your escrow company, if you were to go out into the open market with some independence and check fees, if your escrow company is a lot higher in price. So I've seen offers now where they say they want to use their own escrow company, and then when we go do a net sheet to find out what the fees are, we find out the fees are $1,000, $1,500, $200, $2,000 more than if they went to another company that provides the same service. Again, the bottom line is, what are you doing for your client? If you're steering them somewhere that's going to cost them more money so that you benefit, or your company benefits,
Wow.
or your broker benefits, or
Yeah.
whatever, to me, that's not doing your client a service. That's not a fiduciary duty that you're doing for the benefit of your client. You're doing something that, number one, is not going to get them any different service. Chances are it's the same. The fees that you impose are your fees that you've decided you need or you're paying for in your own brokerage, but that's a choice. So that all adds up to more money that your own client has to spend. If you're in this business and you're not representing your client and doing what's best for your client, then to me, you're doing a disservice to your client.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking for ways, helping them out to save money, whether it's escrow fees, title fees, lender fees. You know how it works when you're doing repairs, anything. You give your advice to your client because you want to make sure your client is getting the best service and the best price.
Right.
That's not happening. And if anybody wonders why online brokerages are getting any headway, it's because of that kind of
Right.
practice. And a lot of them, they've because it's happened so much, they think it's okay. I don't think it's okay. Me personally, I don't think it's a good thing. And if somebody's buying a house,
Yeah.
they want to watch every single penny going in. And if there's charges, I'm hopeful that these agents, this is where I don't really understand or agree because I have no way of knowing. Are they really giving their clients a choice?
Mm.
Are they telling their clients these are fees that other brokerages would not charge you? I doubt it because most people would say, no, I'm good. I prefer not to pay that.
Wow.
I know I'm the
Yeah.
same way. If I go shopping, I'm looking at the same product. I don't want to pay more. want to pay what's fair, I see it as a problem in our industry. I really do.
Yeah, that is a, it probably is not wouldn't be as prevalent if we didn't enter into the era of digital signatures, which is so much more convenient and easy for us to be able to process documents and get business done. But it does result in the client reading less of what they're signing.
Hmm.
And I get it, Bruce, too. I mean, look, for somebody like you and me, when I get a purchase agreement, I know my eyes go straight to the places, the pertinent terms, the
Right.
first 3 pages of that purchase agreement. The purchase agreement is 10 pages long, but in the first 3 pages, or it's 12 pages now, right? The
I
purchase
think it's
agreement, 12
16.
pages.
I don't know.
16. I mean, it just keeps growing. But anyway, but the first 3 pages is where the pertinent issues are, and it says right there, buyer to pay and the allocation of costs.
Right.
Buyer to pay transaction coordination fee of $600. The odds of them seeing that when they're going through signing everything, all that's going to happen is at the close of escrow, or when they go through their process, to get docs out, and they're going to be sitting there with the escrow officer and be like, okay, this is the amount that you're going to need to bring to the table, and baked in that's all this junk fees, and it could
Yeah.
be a couple of grand.
Oh yeah.
And I'm
Well,
just, I'm hearing Carol Yule saying, absolutely not, under no circumstances are you to do that as a shear agent. And now subsequently, of course, as a first team agent, that's where we got our training at shear. If you were to give advice to a client, if you were to give advice to a consumer who's considering who they're going to use as representation, how would you advise them on to kind of ask maybe some of these questions?
well, I think the most important agent trait or broker trait is to care about your client more
Yeah.
than your money.
Yeah.
There, most of the agents that are looking online, you can see what the commission is. Some agents will throw out certain listings that they might otherwise show because they're looking at the numbers and they're looking at what's in it for them. Or someone will call in and they're in their mind, they're thinking, well, what's in it for me? This business was never based on that. I mean, obviously everybody wants to make money, but the way you make money on the long run is to take care of your clients, make them happy, make them understand that you're working for their best interest only. Then they'll bring you more business, and then their relatives, their people, they'll go online and make recommendations. I think the ones that are just in it for the money or trying to somehow take advantage of the situation because the person they're dealing with doesn't know any better,
Mm.
I think those people in the long run, their career will not be successful in the long run. There's different times, when the market was hot, like really hot a couple of years ago, there was on some of the listings, and this is against the DRE, but the listings were so bold on the agent remarks from the brokerages. They said, you will use our escrow and title company, or your buyer will pay for both, which is unheard of. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
seller
you
expense.
can't do that. You said the DRE cracked down on it.
Um, you know, they have their hands full with lots of things, and
Yeah.
honestly, for
Wow.
me,
So there's stuff that flies under that radar.
just from my experience
Yeah.
as a broker, sometimes I wonder if the DRE really cares about certain things like that.
Jeez,
But
man,
to me, it's an ethical question.
it's just wrong.
It's
Yeah.
it's 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 a do unto others on how you
Yeah.
would want to have done to you. So
Absolutely.
to me, there's a lot of things going on in my mind that if I was an agent and I was under that umbrella and that's what people were doing or saying it was okay, I would be questioning whether or not I wanted to be there.
Yeah.
I would want to work for a company that had a higher ethical standard for the quality of their treatment for their clients and what they're out for.
Well,
And
100%, Bruce. I get offers all the time, as you might imagine, go work for somebody else, and I look at it and say, not only no, but heck no, because what I consider to be infinitely more important than a higher commission split is integrity, honesty, longevity. These things are way more, and you see some of these guys, they're jumping from brokerage to brokerage because somebody's offering them a better deal. At the end of the day, the best deal is that we're doing the best for our clients and representing ourselves well. Last
Absolutely.
question before we get you out of here, and thank you. You've been very insightful, great guest, and I've been meaning to get you on here, and we'll
Thanks
get you
for
on
having me.
another time to talk more about stuff. But last question: what the Sam Hill is the deal with all the car washes, dude? Like, why do we have so many freaking car washes?
So, so many things in the commercial world are market driven, and a lot of times I think we're a little behind the times with what's hot and what's not. I know that car washes have been a moneymaker for these guys that operate them, and I know that they go in and they make a bunch of money, and then within a few years, then they move on and try to sell the property or whatever. And a lot of them just develop them because it's a mid-level investment for someone to get into, cheaper than a gas station, but yet with a pretty good cash flow. So I know they want to be there. I don't agree with how many there are that are being built. I'm on the planning commission in the town of Apple Valley, and I really wish they'd put a moratorium on them, just like Hesperia did. So Hesperia found they were getting too many applications for the same things, and to kind of make it so that they didn't get saturated, they put a moratorium on it. Apple Valley hasn't done it yet, and there's been applications recently with them included. I'm not really for them. I mean, I still, to me, my same attitude with development spills over from my attitude from everything that we do, and that's to do things with quality and make it so that there's growth. I'm pro growth, but I'm also careful growth with quality. And you mentioned a few minutes ago about what we have as agents, brokers, as just people in general. We just have a few things that we have, that we own: our reputation, our integrity, our mindset on how we treat other people. That's all we have. So many people get on there and they act like they have all of those things, and they say that they do, and they make sure everybody knows it, but do they really? And I guess that would be my question: is at the end of the day, can you say you did your best for the people you are working for or with? And if you can't honestly say that you are, then I don't know how you can repair that. This is a business of integrity and trust.
Mm.
And the people that I know, including yourself, you had Gene on last week and a couple other people, they built a business based on integrity, knowledge, trust, reputation. And that's something you cannot replace with anything else. So if you're just new to the business, or you're in the business, or you're looking to change brokerages or whatever you do, that's our message. First Team Real Estate, that's what we try to do, is just do a good job and do unto others. So hopefully it comes back to where we're successful that way. And so far so good, knock on wood.
Yes, sir. Well, Bruce, you're a pros pro. Thank you so much for coming on today. We will book you again at some point to share more of your knowledge. And I do wish you a wonderful week and a great rest of your day. And let's get out there and sell more real estate.
Well, I appreciate you, Brian, and I appreciate your loyalty, your knowledge. You bring a reputation to our company that is unsurpassed. I've got a few of you guys, and I really appreciate everything that you do. And this podcast is great. I watch most of them, and the information you're bringing there hopefully gets out to a lot of people, because you're really doing a service for those that may not know otherwise.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you, sir. Thanks
Thanks,
again.
Brian.
All right. There he is, Bruce Kallen, the quintessential professional in our business, and I hope you enjoyed hearing from him. Let's get to this week's market update. Before we do that, if you could take the time, man, like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. It helps us get the message out to help people in both real estate and in life. Okay, high desert housing market for September 25th, 2023. Last 30 days sold 317 single family residences sold in the 7 municipalities here, most local to the high desert. That's Victorville, Apple Valley, Hesperia, Adelanto, Phelan, Oak Hills, and Hellendale. Median sale price $420,000. And to help us understand that number year over year, gosh, a year ago, same period, that's August 25th to September 25th, we sold 423 homes. So, 106 homes more. Uh, that tells us, that in terms of numbers of transactions, how much slower the market is. But it's incredible. A year ago, those same homes were $415,000. So, we sold 25% fewer homes, but we're 1% more expensive this year. Again, these prices remain stubbornly high, been this way all year. It's quite remarkable. And of course, what's driving it is the inventory, which we'll get to in a minute. In escrow, we've got 532 homes. And take a look at the median sale price. We don't know what they're going to sell for, but 529,000 is the median sale price. So here in about 30 to 40 days, we're going to see if those numbers continue trending up. If they do, then we're looking at here in about a month, the sale price being higher than it is today. Active listings, only 760 homes listed. The median price is $460,000 for those homes. So that again tells you where the activity happens is more around that 400,000. That's where the homes sell. And then our current interest rate, this comes by way of Pride Stromset over at Vintage Lending today. This is for your 30-year fixed FHA loan. We're looking at anywhere between 6.625 to 6.75. And this is if you've got that mid FICO score of 660. So that is the state of the market. We did have some volatility last week with the interest rates. Friday, a little improvement. So hopefully this week, it'll stabilize and we'll be good to go. We need more listings, guys. More listings. I don't know where the inventory is going to come from. The foreclosure market is, again, almost non-existent. All right, so let's close out today's episode with check this out. It was, I think, a year ago. I got a gift card from Bruce for being, one of the top producing agents, and it was to Top Golf. And I've been sitting on that gift card for a long time, but my best friend and his wife were in town, and so he loaded up and went down there. And you guys, what if you've never been to a Top Golf? It is a lot of fun. You don't have to be any good at golf. And what they've done is they've somehow blended bowling with golfing. And there's 3 tiers and all these bays, and you can sit there with your friends, and everybody's trying to hit the targets, and you get points. And they've got great service, great food, great drinks. If you are looking for a night of just fun, you can log onto their website down there, book a bay and a time. And what I see a lot happening down there is these big corporate gatherings down there and parties and people using that for that event. So, man, I really do highly recommend Top Golf if you've never checked it out. We want to thank again Bruce Kallen for being our guest today. Hope that you enjoyed it. And until next time, we are serving your dreams. We will see you again on the Brian Hirsch Show.